If globalism is so bad for our economy, what's the alternative? I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this right angle is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com. Well, from both sides of the political aisle, 2016 has brought a lot of talk about the negative impact of globalism on our economy. But it's not always clear what's meant by the term. You would expect that Donald Trump supporters mean something different than Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders supporters do, but they all call for protective tariffs and punishing taxes. Now, there's no denying that commerce is planetary, with the internet now reaching to places that used to require a 3-day boat trip upriver. But what happens when a textile mill in Hyderabad or a computer factory in Guangzhou can make stuff for less than their competition can in Charlotte or Fort Worth? Should the U.S. government step in to level the playing field? What about when that Indian mill is a contractor for a Delaware-based corporation and the Chinese one cranks out designs hatched in Cupertino? Well, Stephen Green, blaming globalists for our economic doldrums is a bipartisan sport. But how can you square your bedrock free market sensibilities and respect for individual liberty with the market meddling that both sides sell as the solution to protect U.S. jobs?
Well, it's not my job to do that. My job is to explain to people why free markets work. Look, you don't increase wealth by just adding more inputs to get more outputs. You increase wealth, you grow the pie, you increase the size of the pie by increasing productivity. So if it used to take 2 million steel workers to produce X amount of steel, well, we are now richer today that it only takes 200,000 steel workers to produce even more steel. Steel is cheaper. And you want to talk about competing with foreigners. You know, this country is maybe 5% of the world's population, and we produce almost 25% of the world's wealth. We compete and we win every single day, 24/7. And we do it in a self-sustaining way, too. You know, Japan tried to export its way to wealth, and about 30 years ago, they hit a brick wall, and the Japanese economy has never fully recovered. China is approaching that brick wall, and they know it. They're at a point where you've got an air conditioner company that's paying their suppliers in air conditioners because they have no cash to pay their suppliers. So they're up to their asses in air conditioners that they can't even sell to us at Walmart for $106 at a profit. So yeah, we compete and we win, and we do it every single day. And what we do, and get back to the steel industry example here for just a second, is Donald Trump is out there saying, oh, we're losing on this, we're losing on these bad deals. Well, yes and no. We shouldn't be trying to compete with China on cost. We should be competing with China on quality, and we do that, and we win on that. And we have, I think it's about a dozen complaints in the World Trade Organization against China and other companies dumping steel. So we are taking care of that. That's built into the agreements. Now, this TPP thing, that's not a free trade agreement. That's a thing that puts us all in hock to Hollywood and Google and software makers for the next jillion years, as best I understand the thing. That needs to be trashed. But the point is, you don't get wealthy by trade protectionism. You don't get wealthy by protecting outdated jobs that can be done more efficiently. You get wealthy by doing the latest and greatest thing at a great big obscene profit that nobody else in the world can match, and that's where America excels.
Well, Bill Whittle, I have not yet heard any complaints from you that those darn Chinese are unloading cheap sweatshop news commentary shows that undercut your cost structure at BillWhittle.com. Why would a limited government guy ever want the federal government to tweak the infinitely complex free markets in order to crush the evil globalists?
Well, I don't. I think that there's a lot to be said here. First of all, if the market is free, I'm in favor of it. But when other countries are imposing tariffs on our imports and we don't impose them back, well, then that's not playing fair, and then you're just a sucker. You know, we've done many shows where we've talked about this idea of the prisoner's dilemma in terms of how two parties interact with each other. And if the same opponent is being played again and again and again, called the iterated prisoner's dilemma, then the correct strategy is to play tit for tat. and to start off fair. And if somebody cheats you, then you cheat them back. And the second they stop cheating you, you stop cheating them back. That is the way that you get the most success on looking at this as a actual mathematical model. So I think we should have free trade with everybody, but if somebody's laying tariffs on us, particular country, we smack them down, hit them with the tariffs back. So that's the first thing. And that also argument that applies to currency manipulation. Secondly, though, we have to face the fact that what we are in is we are in a transitional time on a macro scale that none of us really appreciate. If you read the history of why the communists got started and the whole proletariat and things, it was only 100 years ago. There's no proletariat in this country anymore. There's just not. There are people who still work in factories, but there's no proletariat. The whole idea is an industrial era idea. Now, we are not going to be able to compete with people who'll work for $2 a day. We simply can't. And we shouldn't. We shouldn't, because our people are worth more than that. We should be making things that the workers get paid more for. So we have to understand that we're moving out of an industrial economy into an information economy. And when we get to an information economy, that's what we do super well. That's why there's no Chinese import on right angle or firewall, because this is what we do so well. We're not part of this giant herd, and we're not subject to these gigantic second wave industrial era kind of currents. And I think that's really basically it, Scott. The final thing I'll say just quickly is if you want to talk about manufacturing, then a product costs what it costs because of raw materials, labor, and energy, essentially. Raw materials more or less the same on the world market. Labor is cheaper overseas than it is here. But if we could just get away from these Democrats and start cracking out some energy so that our energy prices are lower, all of a sudden we're competitive again. Now, this is the economic market. When you talk about globalism in a political sense as with the EU, that's a whole other argument, and I think those people can just go to perdition, frankly.
Oh, yeah. Can I throw something in? This is something I meant to add in my answer, and Bill just reminded me of it. And that is, we can compete with anybody around the world, but the reason why all of our displaced manufacturing workers can't get new jobs is we also have to compete with Washington and all of their rules and regulations that are preventing the formation of new businesses and new industries to get these guys back to work.
And the tax rate, too. Exactly.
Yeah.
I blame Bill Whittle for what I'm about to say and that episode that you hosted last week about political correctness. But I think primarily the barrier to entry for the Chinese in competing with us and dumping their cheap news commentary videos is that they would be calling theirs light anger.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry about that.
You should not have gone there.
Yeah,
dude.
I know.
Wow.
So anyway, if you believe in individual liberty and equal opportunity, do you nevertheless draw the line at the U.S. border? If you believe in free markets and limited government, do you want the federal government to step in to protect you from international competition? Why not from interstate competition or local competition? Perhaps more importantly, do you agree that politicians should have the power to increase the price of imported goods that you buy in an effort to protect the job of one of your fellow citizens? Are you part of a political party that says, stop the flow of job-stealing immigrants across our borders, and that also says, stop those same foreigners from making stuff in their home countries to sell to us here? Well, ultimately, countries don't trade. People buy and sell things, or it's B2B, business to business. Now, of course, politicians don't trust you to make even the most basic buying and selling decisions, but unless there are national security implications, such as selling military stuff to our enemies, the government should stay out of it as much as possible. Now, listen, I know that there's no real free market, but does the fact that we've corrupted the capitalist system mean that we should use the force of government to introduce further corruptions in hopes that more impurities will purify it? For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the Right Angle team, I'm Scott Ott. Thank you to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this happen.